Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy, champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out, it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai-iced coffee-flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Again, there's nothing worse than having a wasted rep. And I think the more that we can kind of avoid that, I think better off we will be as a team. And then obviously the better situation that we're putting our kids in.
Eric Kasperowicz brings a wealth of experience and championship pedigree to the Art of Practice presented by GoRout. He's a highly decorated coach, and he's built a reputation for structuring practices with precision, maximizing efficiency, and preparing teams for every possible scenario. As a former National Federation of High Schools, NFHS Coach of the Year, and two-time Pennsylvania State Champion at Pine Richland, Coach has consistently developed high-performing teams through intentional, well-organized practice plans. His time as a volunteer assistant at the University of Pittsburgh refined his ability to adapt practices to elite-level competition. In this episode, Building a Practice Script, we will break down the art and science behind scripting practices that maximize reps, reinforce key concepts, and prepare teams for those critical game situations. This episode is presented by GoRout. Coaches know that success on game day is built through what happens on the practice field. The Art of Practice presented by GoRout dives deep into the methods, strategies, and innovations that make practices more efficient, intentional, and game ready. GoRout is the leader in on-field communication technology to help coaches at all levels take their practice efficiency to the next level. When practice runs smoother, execution improves, and that's the foundation of winning football. Check our show notes for a special offer from GoRout, and you could go to gorout.com/podcast to get that as well. Coach, it's always great to talk ball with you. We had you on our Think Tank series this year, which was just tremendous. I know a lot of guys really appreciated the insight you guys were sharing. At some point, you forgot you were on a podcast and you guys were just clinicking each other. So appreciate that, and certainly appreciate you coming back and talking to us about practice.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Keith. And like you said, I love that format. Just been, like you said, you forget where you're at and you're just kind of throwing ideas around. So awesome format, and look forward to many more from you coming up.
So today, the idea is we're going to talk about scripting practice. And I think, you see practices today run in a number of different ways. Talked on the podcast of the value of having unscripted practices. But I think within that, you still need to utilize your scout team. You need them to line up the right way. You don't want wasted reps. So we want to be efficient with that. And so there's a lot that goes into putting a practice together with what plays you're going to run. Obviously, the drills and all those things, but certainly when you bring it together in group, in team, making sure that it runs efficiently and you get everything done that you need to. Would love to hear just your philosophy on how you approach that and put it together.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in preparation, right? I mean, no minute gets wasted. I think, Keith, you and I are similar ages. I don't want to age either one of us, but I mean, heck, I remember probably 15 years ago, you put out a practice planning, scripting kind of Excel document that I used for a number of years, just because I was so intrigued by being as efficient as possible, right? And understanding that, hey, what we actually practiced on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is what we ran in the games, or vice versa. Shame on me if as a play caller, I called plays in a game, especially in critical situations that I didn't run in practice, or I maybe ran one time. You have a critical 3rd and 8 to keep the game going. And, I called, just say, a flood concept. And then I look back in my practice plan. Well, how many times did I call flood concept in that week of practice, right? And then it's easy to blame it on the kids. It's easy to put it on the kids or the quarterback, but then it's really on me as a coach and the practice planner, the scripter, to put the kids in the situation that they saw that before, right? And I think that's the beauty of coaching. Coaching is teaching, and in the better teachers we are, I think the better coaches we are. And it all starts with practice planning and scripting and being very efficient in that. And let's face it, you could fall down a deep, deep, deep dark hole because you could spend a lot of time, right? But I think the beauty of it is being able to be efficient, like finding fast ways to do it. A lot of same as principles. For instance, a lot of my 3rd down and short is going to be the same plays I'm running it, it is coming out in my 4th and short and my goal line stuff. So there's a lot of carryover that way, and to being able to kind of understand that as I'm scripting, because when, ultimately on a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday, I'm scripting 80 some plays that we're going to see in a 1 hour practice. That's offense. And then defense, we're doing the same. We're scripting that as well. And like you said, I think there is some validity and definitely some value in doing some unscripted periods. But when I say unscripted, that doesn't mean it's unplanned. I mean, that's still planned. That means what house we're going to be on. Are we coming out? Or is it red zone? What is it? Okay, yeah, I might call 10 plays unscripted based on the looks I'm seeing. But again, there's nothing worse than having a wasted rep. And I think the more that we can kind of avoid that, I think the better off we will be as a team. And then obviously the better situation that we're putting our kids in.
The days of writing every one of those down, boy, that took a lot of time. And that was kind of when I created that Excel spreadsheet, and it was probably 15 years ago now, and often copied after that. But that was the idea. Is I just knew, okay, if this is what we're running and we have a finite amount of reps, even though there's a lot of them over the course of the week, how many times are we going to run something? How many times do we need to run something? And it just helped streamline that whole thing. And I could rest assured knowing that if I put it on that first, I called it the game plan board, that first page of the spreadsheet, that it was scripted out into the right periods throughout the week so that we did get it work. And it did help in the beginning when you think of all the ideas that you get into a game plan, what that forced us to do. And I forget the number. I want to say it was somewhere between 26 and 32 boxes that you had to fill in. Was, hey guys, what are we going to cut? Right. And a lot of times that's me asking myself, because I got all these things that I like you said, when you go back through and man, I called this on 3rd and 8 and in a critical point in the 3rd quarter. And I go back to my practice script and I ran it one time, shame on me. Right. Like that's where, how much does each one get? I think there's a little bit of an art to that and understanding what's happening over the course of the season. I always had a coach tell me it's the cumulative effect of reps, like those things that you do over and over again. At some point, just keep the timing going and maybe being able to spend some time on other things. But I agree with you too. I think that carryover from certain situations, running those same plays, maybe it's in a different personnel group, maybe it gets a little bit of a different look. But when you think about, I would always tell guys when they'd ask me about that spreadsheet, like if it is in the box, what you're doing and what they're doing are the same thing, then I wouldn't worry about, that's another rep I need. There's just some window dressing that maybe affects the back end a little bit, but, especially running a football. But it is, if you want to do it the right way, it can be a very time-consuming process if you don't have some technology behind you.
Great lead into what I was going to say next, Keith. So I discovered a product called GoRout about, heck, I want to say I was one of the OGs, maybe 2017, 2000, right around that time, we found out about it, and they've come a long way since. But, it's a little cell phone you wear around your waist, and everything's digital. And, I'm a technology nerd. So I like everything to kind of be online, and everything just be able to be at my fingertips, right? If I want to pull up a practice plan, I can pull it on my phone, et cetera. And GoRout seems to be the perfect fit. We use it extensively for the defensive side of the ball for our scout offense, right? So, the days of, when I'm coordinating the defense, and similar to, what we just talked about, we're going to break down the data. Once we come up with, whether that's 3 games, the top plays, right? You have to come up with the top run plays, the top pass plays. And then from those, I can divvy those up into, inside run or team run or 7-on-7 or routes on air or screen period. But that I have my top 10, 15 run, top 10, 15 pass. What you do is you draw them up, whether you're an old school guy and you still like to draw it up pen and paper and use colored markers or pencils. You still want to label them, put special notes. You can do all that. Or how I do it is I draw it up using Huddle, which is easy for me, but some people like to do it still by hand, and both are fine. At the end of the day, you download those pictures, those cards of the top run, the top pass as PDFs, or if you have them drawn up in your cards, old school way, you can take those and take pictures with your phone, real simple. And again, they get uploaded into GoRout. And then from there, once all that front end work is done, which isn't much more than you normally do anyway, that gets sent out to these devices that we have 12 of them in my program. The scout offense, we have never been more efficient as a defense and a scout offense since we've gotten GoRout. The amount of reps that we get, and it's pretty cool because again, in 2025, Keith, we like the instant feedback. So once we're done, we could see after that practice how much time we spent in between plays, and at the end of the week, it gives you this little feedback, this little summary of how you did, how many reps you saw, how fast you were going, and it kind of ranks you above people across the country. It's pretty cool. But nonetheless, we've been so efficient, and I don't know, I'm sure you've been there, Keith, where there's nothing worse as a defensive coordinator when the scout offense, it's hard enough to get those guys to run the right thing. But this has been by far my best way to get those guys to do that, like to get the right look and to get the, I know it's not going to be at the tempo and the speed we want necessarily, but it's as simple as look down at the phone. All right, I'm supposed to run a hitch. Okay, great. I might have the left tackle. Okay, I'm going to do a reach block to the left. Okay, great. And you could put notes on there. Again, it's going to pull up the picture you uploaded, or it's going to download the picture you drew in Huddle. I don't know if I'm doing a good enough job to explain it, but it's been, life-changing for us as a defensive staff, especially for that scout offense to do the right things.
I love the feature. They've gamified it a little bit. That's something new where they're giving you your efficiency over the course of the week. I absolutely love that. I think that's a tremendous feature to be able to give you that feedback. And I do think it is like getting those guys, especially if you're seeing a lot of tempo teams, like you're on defense, getting those guys lined up quickly. And that's what you can simulate now in practice and not wasting reps because the guy didn't see a card. You think about how we were doing it. We were holding up an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper for 11 guys to see, and maybe those 2 interior guys, they're right in front of them. They could see it really well, but how do you do the back end? And I remember multiple ways of doing that in the binder and what you would do, just the efficiency of this. I mean, you were going to repeat defenses, right? We always drew that card. So in the binder, we could just keep flipping through and we could be efficient instead of what play number was that?
Yep.
That just saving, even if you do draw them again, you don't have to draw them multiple times because one time it's there, it's just going to get pulled up in those right places as you hit next there. And I think it all comes down to not just how fast are you running plays, but how often are they doing the right thing that's helping give your guys a look. I like that you can put notes on it, right? If you are, let's say you have, this would always happen, right? And I'd always see our receivers trying to coach up the scout corners where they needed it to align because, hey, they align here, you're lining up over the top of me or outside. Like they want the right look too, so they could practice their technique. So getting it right. I think a lot of people, when they talk about GoRout, they do talk about how it speeds up in the efficiency. I don't think we talk enough about just getting it right and how important that is.
No doubt. And it's got some really cool features. A part of what we're just talking about now, like the one thing I like the best that we never really see and get a good look at is you could put notes. So just like our phone, Keith, I was going to come on the podcast and 5 minutes before, guess what? A notification popped down, a reminder. Oh, great. Same thing on the GoRout. You could set notifications for each play, certain plays. So I want to go on 2, or I want to change the cadence on play, 4, 5, and 9. So when it comes up when you flip to that next thing, sure enough, from the top pops down a little notification. Hey guys, it's on 2. I could type whatever I want to put. I could send it to the all 11. Hey, I could just send a special thing to the 5 linemen that have their GoRoutes. It might say, hey, there's a play action pass. Really, really sell the run, right? Stay low and fire out. Just a little note like that. I could do that on every play. I could do that on pick and choose plays I want to do. So that's been a tremendous feature. And then probably my most favorite one, and again, just trying to be, forward thinking. And I always remembered as a player, I hated this. You run something wrong and the coaches, do it again, get on the ball, gosh darn it. And you run it again, right? And I've always made that a point to me that I'll never do that, right? That there's nothing good with it. Move on to the next play. We'll check it off and grade it on the film and make sure we add it back in. So on GoRout, simple thing, there's a little button you hit that kind of tags it and marks it. So at the end of the practice, you might have 4 plays marked. Well, those kind of go to a separate area. And then, tomorrow, hey, those are plays that we need to look at or talk about, or maybe add twice to the script tomorrow, whatever it is, just a nice, easy little button to push that you can kind of tag that you want to run again, maybe at a later time in the week. And, again, whether you're using a phone or an iPad, the user-friendly capability is tremendous. I mean, it could be anybody from, my dad's 76 years old and he's able to sit out there and go to the next play to run the scout team for us. I mean, it's been an awesome feature we've used for now, going on 10 years.
The funny one, usually the younger guys do this on your team, but they're smart too. Like when we were running off cards or doing something, that way, and you're spending that extra time because, you're running a gadget play against them or something, as those guys are watching longer, they start yelling, hey, watch the trick play. Like, we want it to be a trick play. We want the effect of this run at regular speed, not someone took a timeout and the guy was drawing everything up and giving it away. Like, you eliminate that. Like any kind of special things in there, you are able to go faster. Let's take a quick break to hear about our presenting sponsor, GoRout. If you're looking to maximize reps and create a game-like tempo in practice, look no further than GoRout. With instant play call delivery, real-time adjustments, and seamless integration with your existing playbooks, GoRout allows your team to get the most out of every rep. Visit GoRout.com/podcast today to see how top programs across the country are using it to level up their practices. Let's get back to the art of practice. Getting back to just practice in general. And one of the biggest things to me was when we were putting a practice together, you mentioned even the unscripted periods, what hashes it on, where are we at on the field? I think as you're scripting practice, the context to the plays you're running, that's so important to preparing these guys for the game, right? You need to almost get them out of the mentality. You remember where they come from junior high. We line up for 35 minutes and we just run team plays at each other, and there's absolutely no context or situational stuff. But now at the high school level and up, boy, you better understand what the situations you're facing and what those require beyond the execution, the understanding you need to make the right decisions, whether you're on offense or defense.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think it all goes back to what you said and kind of what we're talking about is the preparation and having the practice plan. I mean, I have so much data on my practice plan. And again, I've come up with a lot of this on my own, but I stole most of it. And being my time at Pitt and the 2 high schools I've been at, and all the great coaches I've learned from over the years, but the more data, I mean, I'm to the minute for each coach, right? I mean, all right, yeah, maybe we're running offense, but defensive coaches, they're doing something. They know exactly where they need to be. Well, maybe they're in charge of, like you said, Keith, is our third down period. Well, we're going to move that to a certain part of the field, and maybe we're going to get the sticks out and use those, right? Then we get on the goal line. Well, we're not going to run goal line offense at the 40. We're going to get out of the goal line, right? If we're running backed up, well, we're going to get to that area of the field and do that because I think that's critically important. We're creatures of habit. And if we remember, I mean, heck, all week in practice, we're running our goal line plays down the goal line. I think there might be something to that. You repped it, you did there, you've been there, right? So I think doing things like that, I think really enables the kids to kind of, just you're creating situations for success. And again, one thing that I've found really successful over the years is talking about the hash marks. I think, the stats in my head, but I think 78% of the high school games played on a hash, right? Or near a hash.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do, because again, just thinking about efficiency, instead of each play, I know a lot of coaches go left, middle, right, and then kind of work back like that. I've come to the point where I found to be most efficient. And again, it could change a little bit, but Mondays are a left hash day. Every play is left hash. That way we're not wasting time moving the ball, blah, blah, blah. Tuesday, right hash day. Now, Wednesday's a day where we'll move it based on, certain things. And, obviously that can change a little bit, but for base stuff that we're seeing, that's been so much more efficient. Now we're not moving. We're not, getting so we're taking away the even chance of not getting the ball. Hey, over here, guys, how many times during a practice where we're on the right hash and we're throwing the ball over and the coach is lined up wrong? And, so you're probably saving yourself 7, 8, 9 minutes of practice just by doing that. That's something I found really helpful, over the years.
Yeah. Where'd you get that idea? I've actually, of all the things I've heard, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody talk about that one.
I think I might have come up with that on my own. Where it probably stemmed from is we all know Gus Malzahn, and something that really intrigued me that he said over the years. And again, kind of from, I think to even listen to you and some speakers you had on, Keith, over the years is, we all Y cross, right, in our offense, right? Well, in all my years of calling offense, it always bugged me that, again, it's probably a little OCD in me is, well, I'm running power to the right. Okay, well, I need to run power to the left. I'm running Y cross to the right and Y. So I said, and I heard Gus Malzahn speak about it. He said he only runs power right and counter left. I'm like, well, heck, he just won a freaking national championship doing that. And every coach in America scouted him and knew that. Well, why do I have to do that at the high school level? So it kind of just made me streamline my thinking that way. We run Y cross from left to right. That's the only way we run it. We don't run it the other way, and so there's a lot of like simplicity things like that kind of maybe led me down that path. And yeah, I'm like, you know what? What's the difference? All right, we're going to run these on the left today. I'm going to make sure that I flip the formation and we're going to run on the right. Now, there is certain plays, like you said, maybe a trick play or certain things teams might do where they only run it on the side. So maybe I'll put those at the end of that script. Hey guys, all right, let's go over on Monday. Let's go over to the right hash and run those 3 because I know that's their 2-point play that they run from that hash. And, you can adjust, but generally speaking, 90% of the time, that's what we'll do. And it's just saved us a ton of time. And heck, like you said, it's not usually about us. It's about that scout team and making sure they're lined up, they're where they need to be. So try, even to the point where you're scripting, if we're doing team pass and we see a team that runs maybe some cover 3, cover 1, and maybe a little cover 2, I'm going to script my offensive plays to where it's all the first cover, the cover 3 ones are the first 6, and then maybe the last 4 are the cover 2 ones. That way it's not back and forth in between. There's that continuity of, again, maybe it's a fault to some extent, but I'm more for the efficiency of making sure that we get the right look so we can, see what we need to see.
Yeah, I know for me in coaching the quarterbacks and as the offensive coordinator, it was always important that our quarterbacks understood where the indicators were. That means that in practice, you need the indicators lining up in the right place. There was, one team on our schedule who disguised everything and you couldn't tell. They had no indicators. Everybody else kind of had more human type athletes that, needed to cheat a little bit. And, if you were moving 1 yard, like we were training our quarterback to see like, hey, that guy's outside the hash, they're playing cover 2, he's going to go over the top there, whatever it might be, right? Doing things like that, again, very hard to communicate when you hold the card up and making sure everybody sees things. But now it's even if you need to, with the way that, a GoRout works for that one particular player, like he can be getting those notes on how you need to align him. But I think then it goes back to, it does make this easier when you're talking about that, when that guy is that same guy all the time on the boundary who we're reading and needs to give us an indicator. And because we're running it all left hash that day, there's something to be said for that, especially when you're thinking about your base offensive type plays.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the point of, as a defensive coach too, you're thinking, well, all right, is your outside back, we run a 4-3 structure. Say we're seeing a 4-3, you have your 2 inside box backers, but then you have that field backer, right? But now we go to the other hash on the next play. Is that field backer, is he going to switch over or are you going to bump the backers? And now that inside backer who isn't giving you the look that you need to get because you trained the other kid on it 10 minutes before practice or whatever it was. So it's just more of that continuity that I think all offenses and defenses are trying to get to today. That's why, receivers aren't switching sides anymore. I'm going to be the left receiver and the right receiver because I like running routes from the left because I practice that. And if I just only do it that way, I could be that much better at coming out of my dig route from the left as opposed to doing both. Now I'm splitting my reps, right? Same thing defensively. We're a big field and boundary team on defense. And I think that allows us to have extra reps because we don't have to cross train a lot of our players, right? My field corner doesn't need to learn technically all the skills the boundary corner does, right? In the different coverages we're running. So yeah, I think just trying to, and it's by no means are we there. We're just, But GoRout really, really helps us really streamline and become efficient practice players, especially on the scout team. I mean, that is tremendous.
Yeah. There's something too, as you were talking about that. I seem to have these conversations a lot lately with coaches about cutting down what kids need to learn. Like you said, receivers just staying on one side and, being able to work all their breaks one way and understanding those or the routes they're running, et cetera. I know for a while there were teams who would flip-flop their lines. I think what you said in running, a play one direction, I think I had Hal Mummy on the podcast and after they had coached, man, it was one of the spring leagues, and now I'm forgetting which one he was in. It could have been the USFL or XFL. I can't remember which one he was in, but he said they had, one of the runs. They just ran it the one way the whole season. They didn't have time. And these are guys, experienced players who are on the brink of going professional, and they're running the ball just one way because they want to get execution out of it. So I think a lot of times, yes, we want to understand a team's tendencies. We want to understand what they're going to do. But this game does come down to execution. And so I think there's an argument made in however you look at it that you can't cut down what guys are doing. I think it's then just understanding you will develop tendencies. How are you protecting against those? But then also thinking about the ability to execute. Are you actually better at doing it this way than if you're having the guy learn both ways?
Yeah, that's the holy grail we're all searching for as coaches,
Right.
who can do it the best way. And I think one other thing we really try to do when we're practicing is trying to do as much same as our offense or our system or our defense, right? If we're facing a normal 11 personnel team, well, as I'm drawing up the cards all week for my scout team, I'm going to try to use all those same terms that we use on offense. So if they run outside zone and we call it Sarah and Sally, well, on the cards, I'm going to drop the picture, but on the real big in the top on the right stare off. So then, hey, my center who's running the scout team might be our second or third team center. He can say stare to the guys. Now they're learning our offense at a young age. And then same thing on defense. For they're a cover 3 team, well, what do we call cover 3? Yeah, they'll see the picture on the GoRout. They'll see what they're supposed to do on the GoRout, but it also have the big word up there that we call cover 3. And so you're getting a lot of that same as kind of program principles as well.
Yeah, you've coached at the college level, and really, I think I've had some coaches say they work it that way, but usually there's different terminology you have to learn across. But you as the head coach, how important is it to you, as you've had different guys over the years, that we have that unified terminology? When the other team's running this play on offense, it's called this. Their defense is called this. And even if I think you always build your terminology and your structures for those situations, like, yeah, we don't run it now, but we may run it in the future. And if so, this is what it's called. I think having that kind of structure does help your players learn. You think about those young guys. I think the worst thing you could have for a young high school kid all year long is to be looking at a scout card that doesn't give him any of that relationship between what he's doing there and what you guys actually do.
Exactly. What did he really get out of running that scout team all year? Other than he's going to get his butt whooped a little bit, he might get a little bit better just practicing. But if we can get that knowledge aspect too while we're doing it, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, so that's something that we really try to focus on, especially like when you said, we have some, every year you might have a little carryover in staff. Really, I think that's a definition of a program. If you can have that terminology offensively, defensively, even middle school, and heck, even some aspect down in the community level of your youth programs, just that terminology, if they can learn that, it doesn't have to be everything by any means, but the more that we can all call it the same thing, that's that, in my opinion, that's a definition of a program.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate the insight and the ideas you shared here today. I think some really good things for practice. Definitely some things I never thought about before. Always great to have you here on the podcast, and appreciate your time again, Eric.
Anytime. Appreciate you having me, Keith. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Art of Practice presented by GoRout. If you found value in this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode. Visit GoRout.com/podcast to learn more and take your program to the next level. Be sure to check out coachandcoordinator.com for additional content and information from our episodes, and follow us and interact on X at Coach K. Grabowski.